Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes here while we wait for a few more folks to join us on this call, and then we'll get going. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, though, so you guys can see that. And again, as we're navigating through this, I want to let you guys know we do like to keep this as informal as possible, and really, since this is a collective call, we really want you guys to engage, ask questions. You'll notice that in the menu box for this Any Meeting setup, there is an opportunity to plug in messages underneath the chat section. If you have additional questions during the actual webinar, you can either unmute yourself. We do have this open-ended, so you can choose to unmute yourself or put in a message in the chat box, and I will be addressing any questions that pop up during that demo and through that chat box as we kick this off. Please note as well, this is going to be a recorded session, so we'll be able to share this recording with you. Following this call, we'll likely be issuing that or sending that information out by tomorrow. But that way, if you had any additional team members that were not able to attend but were interested in learning more about this service, you'll be able to share that with them and get this going. We should all be seeing right now, you should be looking at the CIRMA website as we speak. So I would ask if one of you in this session could plug in and confirm in that chat box that you do and you are seeing the screen here, that would be great. Either that or feel free to unmute yourself and we'll be able to kick that off. Okay, thanks, Martin. Appreciate that. We've just got another minute or so just to see if anyone else decides to join in. We had a few others registered for this call today, so we're just going to give it another minute before we kick this off. Okay, it looks like we got just about everyone on the call. So again, for those that are just now joining us, we appreciate you joining. This is the CIRMA e-Learning Center webinar that we're going to be discussing today. Ultimately, this is the second time in 1 week that we've conducted this webinar, but this is very much an introductory webinar to the CIRMA e-Learning Center platform, just to provide you all with a complete overview about the training services that CIRMA is offering to all CIRMA members at no cost. So this is a value-added service that is readily available for all of you to take advantage of. Really what we're going to be doing for today's call is discussing, really focusing on the ease of access for users to engage with this training system, how we go about getting users established on the training account, and really showcasing you all as the administrators for these training programs and for your entity, how you can leverage this system to help facilitate any of your training needs or goals that you have within your entity. So just to give you or provide you with a brief overview of this service, CIRMA roughly about two and a half years ago entered an agreement with LocalGovU. That is my organization that I work with. My name is Tony Green, and I am the Director of Account Operations for LocalGovU. So I provide various oversight of our partner programs such as the CIRMA e-Learning Center here. We've been doing this now for about 12 years now, so at this point there's not much that we have not uncovered or heard of at this point. We also like to think that we have a very wide selection of available course offerings that any entity can utilize and take advantage of. Ultimately, whether you're trying to collaborate with your employees on meeting various training mandates or HR mandates like harassment or diversity training, or if you're really looking to cater this all the way down to the department level in providing, various performance measures, productivity type courseware, as well as specific job function or professional development courses that are available throughout this program. So what we're going to do is, again, go through this from a user perspective first and foremost, and then graduating all the way up to the administrative overview, so you guys can see and really engage with how your users, from a user perspective, will be able to log in and gain easy access to the training that you make available to them through this program, but also from an administrative standpoint, how you as an account administrator or a department supervisor might be able to provide various other training aspects or elements to your staff that they can utilize throughout the year. Again, just to reiterate, this is a value-added service that CIRMA is providing their members at no cost. So if you have an opportunity or if you have any obstacles with training currently, our sole purpose is to assist you in gaining access to this training program, answering any additional questions you might have. So while this is an introductory phone call, please note CIRMA does have a dedicated account manager. His name is Steve DeStacy. He is on our team, and his sole purpose is truly to provide you assistance in every step of the way. So once we get off this call, we'll be sharing his contact information. He'll also be able to set up one-on-one demonstrations with you, not only to provide you with another overview of the system, but also to kind of assess what your specific needs are and help you formulate a training plan that really is designed to meet your specific training goals and needs within your entity. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. Again, just to reiterate, please, if you have any additional questions, you can unmute yourself by clicking on your name and unmute yourself to ask additional questions, or feel free to put those questions in the chat box that we have here, and I will be addressing those throughout the call. I might not be able to address that immediately if we plan on getting to that point, but I will address those questions as they arise and try to assess those as they pop up. So first and foremost, what you as well as your employees would do to access this training site. We already have an account created for every CIRMA entity and CIRMA member entity there is out there. So the accounts are already set up for you. That takes away that step. Really the next step in the process is to assist you all as account administrators in getting up to speed with the system, getting you logged in first and foremost, but then assisting you each step of the way to add in additional employees, making course assignments, running reports within the system, and really to answer and address any additional questions you might have. Again, feel free to throw any questions out there that do arise, and we'll get to those. So once you get on the CIRMA website, there's a couple locations that you can access this. First of all, I am at CIRMA.ccm-ct.org. This is the CIRMA homepage and website there. You're going to notice there's a banner front and center on the screen that will rotate through. And just as we see here, the CIRMA e-Learning Center pops up as one of those banners. You can select it there. However, if you scroll down, all the way down on the main home page, there's an opportunity here where it talks about CIRMA e-Learning Center. This kind of gives you an overview of the program itself, but also a link to access that directly by selecting the e-Learning Center hyperlink that's listed here. You can also go here and download the course brochure and click here to see a list of the expanded course topics list. Additionally, this is all going to be on the CIRMA e-Learning Center portal page. And as you can see here, this is really designed to mimic and match the look and feel of the existing CIRMA website, providing that access point from the CIRMA website directly into the CIRMA e-Learning Center platform. Right here, we've got set up to where a user would plug in their username and password that we would already have set up for them. Again, we've already got the entity account set up for every CIRMA member entity. The next step would be, of course, to add in employees in the system and getting them set up with the username and password. To accomplish this, what we do is, again, your dedicated account manager, Steve DeStacy, will be able to provide you with what's called an employee upload form. It's just a very basic Excel spreadsheet that can be filled out and returned back to us, and we like to take that workload off your shoulders. So we'll actually take that form, we will upload your employees into the system, and then coordinate the next steps with you in regards to making course assignments, making the training available to your staff and your personnel, and rolling out this training program. That includes various email notifications or automated notifications that can be sent directly from our system, to putting together a full-fledged communication plan to help get the word out to your employees about this training service. Additionally, on this page as well, you can go here. Again, there is a link to set up your training account, but this has already been created for you, so it's really unnecessary. You can just give us a call, and we can either add you into the current account if you're not set up in there already, or at least provide you with your login credentials that you would use to log into the training site. Additionally, we talked about that employee upload form. You can find that directly on this portal page where it states download our convenient department registration form. If you click that link, You're going to notice that that's going to download immediately for you. Sometimes it varies on the device that you're using to access this training site or the training account itself, but that will download for you and allow you to immediately start filling that out and send that back to us. Additionally, as we mentioned, you can also access and download the list of courses that are available throughout the year. Keep in mind, CIRMA is constantly reviewing new training topics that we continue to deliver on throughout the year. Our business generally creates roughly about 50 new courses on an annual basis, so the list of available topics will always continue to grow. CIRMA will continue to review the training content and provide additional access to content that they feel is most applicable for CIRMA members to utilize. Additionally, please note with this program, while it states these are the 2017 course offerings, as I mentioned, this will continue to grow, but another caveat to this is that all available courses will actually expire and reassign on a quarterly basis. And the theory and the idea behind that is if you within your entity are on a fiscal training calendar, for that matter, so possibly say July 1 through June 30th, this gives you the opportunity, if need be, if there is an employee requirement to take training sometimes throughout the same calendar year to meet your fiscal training schedule, they would have the opportunity to access and utilize content in additional time. So we reset that access on a quarterly basis, give you guys access again to all the training courses that are readily available, and go about divvying that up. If there is an instance where within your entity you are not interested in having these courses necessarily expire on a quarterly basis, so you're on a calendar training year as well, you can give us a call and we can actually set up your account specifically to keep that access current without expiring throughout the year or reassigning. Just let us know on a case-by-case basis and we can set that up specifically for your entity account. And that's really most applicable if you are making specific course assignments to be utilized throughout the calendar year for that matter. So without further ado, we're actually going to jump into the system and take a look at, first and foremost, navigating through this from a user perspective, how a single user, when we're talking a non-administrator, would log into the account and get from A to Z, meaning logging in and finding their training to utilize the program. And we like to really put a lot of emphasis on this in particular, really because for the simple fact that we want to break down any barriers that might be, around, say you have employees that aren't the most tech savvy, or you're concerned that there's going to be employees that aren't the most familiar with computers and would have a tough time utilizing this program. Ultimately, we like to put everyone through a stringent physical exam once we get this going. So if you could, just taking your index finger and tapping that on the desk in front of you or on your mouse as you use to navigate sitting behind the computer, as long as you can accomplish that task, you will have no issues navigating through this training program. We like to pride ourselves in the system that it is easily accessible. It is always available, so it is available around the clock, 24/7, 365 days a year. So again, whether or not you're accessing this from a mobile device, which everyone has cell phones the size of laptops in today's day and age anyways, or a tablet, a computer workstation, or your home workstation, again, you'll be able to access this content anywhere at any time on whatever device you're using on this. That wasn't always the case. There was a day and age where people with iPhones or Mac computers would have a struggle accessing online training for that matter, and that's because no one realized how quickly that would advance and really the various platforms that would be using to access online training. So over 10 years of doing this, we've seen a lot of transformations in the online learning industry. And without going into great detail on tech talk, our platform is delivered and services training courses on an HTML5 platform. And what that means is that's the newest standard to ensure that anyone from any device can access this training, and it would optimize itself for efficiency purposes to ensure that it matches current speeds, the current browser that you're utilizing, and taking the training on for that matter. So where, again, that's a mobile device and or a laptop or computer workstation, you won't have any issues. Even if some of the entities are still in the dark ages with even dial-up internet access. That will not be a problem within the system, as we'll point out a little bit later in this webinar, that all of the, call it streaming media content, like videos, like the audio playback options, those are all hosted on or within our own servers. So it's not a situation where there will be streaming or load times, load-bearing utilization that could slow down your network across the board. That's very much a thing of the past, for that matter, and now that we've got everything hosted within our own platform, within our own server, everything is accessed directly from this site in particular. So you're not going to deal with, so to speak, a load bearing on your network, or if there's multiple employees accessing this training at a single time, it wouldn't slow things down across your entire network. Now that we're here in the system, though, there's a couple areas that a standard user will go and will see when they interact with the training program. I am currently logged in as an administrator on this account, and that's really for demo purposes today. But keep in mind, a single user would only see a few different links that they'd be able to work with here. All right, logging back in here. I clicked on the wrong link there. And that is dealing with progress and certificates, the preferences section, log out, or there'll be another link replaced here by the admin link, which would state reports. And that's a dedicated report site that is available and dedicated to that employee who is logged into their account. They're not going to have access to reports access to all employees on the account unless they were set up as an administrator on that account. But really, it's just a report site that would give them access to track and document all of their existing training progress for the life of this program. So keep that in mind too. That's one of the best things about an online learning platform, is that documentation and the recording of all users' training progress indefinitely. So we will always maintain these results. Whether or not you were active 3 years ago or just getting started, for that matter, that training history for all employees will always be available to you as the account administrator to have access to at any given point in time. Additionally, as a user, I can also select my progress and certificates tabs here. This is going to show me both my current CIRMA e-learning center progress, and this is applicable for the current courses that I'm assigned as a user and have access to. Again, keep in mind, because this is a demo account, I've got access to everything here in the system. But from an employee perspective, they would only see that training that was assigned to them or made available to them as a user to utilize, for that matter. So they're not going to see everything unless, of course, they've been granted access to all the training resources that are available. Additionally, I can select here for all completed courses. This is for the life of this training program. So as long as I've been active in here, I will be able to track all of my certificates that have been earned. Of course, I can see the score, the date that that certificate was earned, and from this location as well, I can also view that certificate of completion for just viewing purposes and or to download directly from the system. So if I choose to view that in color mode, you'll see that gives me a PDF download option to document that. Sometimes people use this still for existing personnel files, file folders and personnel management systems, whatever the case may be. If you should choose to want to have a printed document for your employees, this is the one location where you can find and do that on the per employee basis. We will show you here a little bit later on, once we get to the administrative portion of the system, how that can be done in bulk for all employees within the training account. So aside from being able to, update and track my existing training progress, document those certificates of completion, really the most important takeaway here is how a user gets from the login or the point of logging in to accessing the training that's been made available to them. So as you can see here, every user, every time, is going to be presented with a welcome screen. Kind of tells them a little bit about the training service that's available here. But just below that, we're going to see a link that says, click here to see your courses and get started. Now, when I select this link, it's going to immediately take me to the full course listing of available training topics that are available to me or assigned to me as a user. Again, I'll reiterate, because I'm an admin on this account and set up as a demo account, I've got access to everything. But if I was just a standard user that only had, for instance, human resources training access, that would really be the only option or category option that I see here. So as we're breaking this down from a top-down view, I've got the option to choose the course category of available course topics that I can choose from that have been assigned to me, and I can filter those out. So these are all of the wide course categories available, but I can filter that out to only see, for instance, human resources training. Now if I scroll down, that is the only course or course category options that I have to choose from. Additionally, to start a course, the employee only needs to select the training topic that they're interested in taking. So if I wanted to go in here and kick off a new training course, I'm going to select sexual harassment in the workplace here. A couple of things are going to happen. Immediately, I am thrown right into the training course, so I don't need to figure out what I have to do next, for that matter. I'm going to immediately be tossed into that training course, and that course will promptly start right away. A few takeaways about employee navigation, how a user navigates through the system, and how our courses work. I previously told you that these are built out in HTML5 format, meaning this is accessible on any and all devices and optimized for accessibility and efficiency, for that matter. Additionally, though, you're going to notice an audio bar that's going to be at the bottom of every page of every course. This is in compliance with the ADA Act, for that matter, so ensuring that we have both audio as well as video options to navigate through the actual training course itself. So if you have an employee who has eyesight or hearing impairment, there still is the option for them to utilize this training. They can listen to the audio and navigate through that themselves. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to notice that I've got a module menu, really what this is, and you'll find that there's a mixed bag of courses within our system. Some will be broken down into multi-modules, some are just a standard or single module, and that really depends on the course length. The majority of our courses in our system are anywhere between 35 minutes to an hour from start to finish, and that is factoring in the time that it would take an employee to complete the quiz or the exam portion that is applied to every single training course. So roughly, very short format. It allows that ease of access to get in and get out when it's convenient to do so. Course modules, as this is shown here in the system, that can be identified as a course chapter, so to speak. A chapter in a book has one specific subject, one core focus, and that same principle is applied here to this learning course. So within this sexual harassment in the workplace training course, it's broken down into 7 different areas, starting with introduction all the way down to the summary and wrap-up. This allows me to navigate through by chapter, and then we've got the directional button on the upper right-hand corner of the screen that allows me to navigate through the pages. The courses themselves are also built out utilizing the ADDIE method that's really applied for adult learning principles. So keeping that short format, ensuring that it's, so to speak, the meat and potatoes of the content that we're looking to deliver. There's the ability to go on and on and on when we're talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. We generally take the most relevant information, comprise that into a 30-minute to an hour-long course that is easily accessible and can be navigated through very easily. An additional component about this, it is designed as a pace-yourself training program. So from a user's perspective, they can go through it at their pace. Maybe they don't want to listen to the audio, so they simply turn off the audio on their computer. They can then navigate through that, reading the text on the screen and navigating through as such. Additionally, the content is built out with that blended learning method involved, so it does include a variety of various video segments, progress checks scattered throughout the training course, which would require the user to engage with that, but also ensuring that the information on the screen is formatted in a format that doesn't necessarily require scrolling. So you're going to see as we navigate through these pages, it is strictly just the need-to-know information that's required on the screen, so it does not require that individual user to scroll through that. I'm going to backtrack here and take a look at this video section as well. You'll notice that these prompt up right away, so it's readily available for the employee to start utilizing. One thing to keep in mind about these videos as well is they are using the latest technology from video players that is available. And again, this video player is really optimized to give you the best version depending on the browser that you're using or the device that you're using to access this program. So it's going to format itself, give you the best, call that video rendition to be optimized for the best output or playback on whatever device you're using to access this training. As we navigate through it, again, we talked about progress checks scattered throughout. We're not going to spend the entire webinar going through an entire course. We did want to cover over those sections and how users navigate through it. The final thing that we want to address, however, is let's say or assume that a user gets interrupted, they have to walk away from the computer, whatever the case may be. It will not require the user to start over from the beginning. And what I mean by that is, let's say we get interrupted, we have to walk away from the computer. The system is going to log that user out after 15 minutes of inactivity, meaning after 15 minutes of not navigating to the next page, navigating to the next module, that system is going to automatically log them out. This is not only a security measure in the system, but this also ensures that we keep that training progress as the user is navigating through that. Let's just say, however, I made it halfway through a course and I wanted to take a break. I wanted to return this later. The system automatically bookmarks wherever I leave off. So if I was to choose to log out, or if I was just to choose to even start another training course, the system is always going to remember right where I left off. So if you guys remember here, I was on the second module on the second page of that module. So when I walk back into that training course at any given point in time, whether that was 1 minute later or 1 hour or an entire week later, I'll still be able to go in and pick up right where I left off. So we'll see that here. The moment I log in, it tells me welcome back. Would you like to continue where you left off or start over from the beginning? And that's important to note because, again, we live busy lives. We live very professional lives for that matter. And our job and everything else will always come first. So if we get interrupted, we have to walk away from that. We're not going to lose that user progress. At this point, I'm going to get ready to navigate over to the admin section of this system. I do want to provide an opportunity for anyone to ask some questions. If you have any at this point, feel free to plug those into the chat box or unmute yourself, and I'd be happy to address those. But really the goal here was to break down the barriers of or kind of sometimes misconceptions that it's difficult to navigate through. We really pride ourselves in the system and the fact that it always works, it's always live, and you can always access this truly by logging into the account and clicking on the course that you want to get started with. It's important to know that, though, and pass that along, not only to have that understanding yourself, but to also pass that along to department heads that may be objective about getting started with an online training platform. And that is usually the number one response that we get is that department heads or supervisors are concerned about less tech-savvy employees for that matter. We'll give it just a second, see if anyone has any additional questions. We're going to take this as no news is good news. But again, if anything else does come up or if you got any questions along the way, please feel free to chime in, interrupt me, and we'll address that when we can. What I did, and just to take a step back here, is now we're navigating to the admin portion of this system. So only those users who are set up as administrators on their account will ever see this admin link available to them. You only need to select that admin link and you'll immediately be thrown into the administration portion of the system. And so now we're going to use this screen to navigate all through the various admin tools that are available to you as an account administrator. Again, there's going to be some areas that we don't touch as this is my master account access, but for the most part, we're going to address everything here. This is really the bread and butter of our system though. Aside from providing employees easy access, it's important to us to ensure that we provide entity administrators the tools and features that they need to effectively manage their training accounts. While an online training platform is supposed to be somewhat simplistic by design, please note, it's not our goal to replace anything called instructor-led learning. There's always going to be a time and a place for an instructor-led type training situation. This program is provided as an opportunity to work in conjunction with any of the instructor-led sessions you might be conducting, whether that be for new employee orientation or various hands-on skills for that matter. This is really provided to give you the opportunity to have access to refresher training. Whether or not you're looking to implement a program to conduct all employee HR mandated training requirements throughout the year, we can certainly assist you in putting together a plan of action for that with the available course offerings. Or additionally, whether that was a new employee orientation type program, there's a lot of ways and a lot of methodologies to utilize this program, and it's really dependent on what your specific needs are. So we encourage you, think outside the box, think big, try to identify any obstacles that you have with training. Some of the ones that come to mind, at the top of my mind is truly that every time there's an instructor-led session that is conducted, for instance, you're never going to be able to serve everyone who absolutely needs that. And that's due to, time constraints or availability, or just not able to get to that session in a timely manner. This is just another avenue of approach that can be utilized to meet those training needs. So at this point, after doing this for 12 plus years, there's not much that we haven't heard of yet. And we're pretty confident that we'll be able to assist you in putting together a strong plan of action. And really, I think you'll find that as the program continues to mature within your entity and as it's being utilized, your members or your employees will become more engaged with the system. They'll be interested in gaining additional access, but it's taking that step to get them set up and, allowing us and my team to help facilitate that process each and every step of the way. So again, don't be afraid to ask questions that pertain specifically to your entity, as there's always the opportunity to cater to your specific needs. Looking at the admin system, though, and the admin site, we're going to find that there's tabs along the left-hand side of the screen here underneath the admin menu, and there's also a short description of what these tabs can do for you in the center of the screen. So starting with user groups all the way down to get certificates, it's going to provide you just a brief overview of what those tabs can conduct for you. First and foremost, we're going to click on the Users and Groups tab. As you can see, the Users and Groups tab allows account administrators to organize the users within your training university into various groups or departments, for that matter. And that's an important takeaway, is we've got kind of an automated setup of groups or departments that CIRMA has recommended that we loop or lump our employees into within the system. So it provides just a standard setup of department names already built up within the system, and we'll assist you in actually applying your employees to the various groups or departments that are set up. And CIRMA is using this as an option to really assess utilization. So while there's the requirements to put the users into the specific groups that CIRMA has identified, the end goal is to utilize feedback through various reports that they have access to assess new content that meets the majority of the user's needs. So if we define and we identify that it's the majority of public works employees who are utilizing this, it's more opportunistic for CIRMA members to have additional access to, say, expanded general safety content or more specialized content in the areas of public works. So we'll really be utilizing this information to collect user engagement, member engagement for that matter, and those who are utilizing this training program as this continues to mature and grow. Just something to keep in mind as we navigate through this. So we're going to go ahead and select the Users and Groups tab here. Underneath Users and Groups, you're already going to see those 8 departments already broken down for me here. Again, we'll assist you in lumping your employees into those various departments. They are kind of called generalistic or a standard overview for that matter, but we'll be putting your employees into those various departments. So CIRMA has the opportunity to assess that user engagement for the most part. Additionally, here in the system, though, we can search by users by first or last name. If we needed to update a user's email address for that matter, or do something change, maybe there was a name change, an employee got married, this is the area to do so for that matter. So you can search users by first name, last name, or email address. It's also very forgiving, so you don't have to have the correct spelling. And if you're anything like me, you're horrible at spelling, especially when it comes to names. So you can start kind of prefacing that spelling for the most part. If I just type in TON, for instance, it's going to pull up any user within the system that has those 3 consecutive letters, TON, for you to address. Additionally, you'll be able to choose from that drop-down of that list of available users. You find that user that you're looking for, so I'm going to select my own name here. Underneath this section, this is the user's details section. So I can go in here, I can update first name or last name. There's other bits of information that are not required but optional for you to plug in there, just dependent on how you want to track and document employee utilization of this system. Email addresses are strongly recommended, and while they're not required, we do recommend using the email address not only as an opportunity to request their login credentials should they misplace their actual login for that matter, or utilizing that as a unique username. So all employees out of every entity that we work with in this system, even outside of the CIRMA program, must have a unique username, and that is unique for themselves system-wide. So that's where email address usually comes into play, as an email address is always going to be unique to that end user. The same thing applies for the password section for that matter. That is going to be case sensitive, but you're going to notice here, even on my screen, this information is encrypted. And what this means is I don't have the ability, for instance, to change or update, or read what someone's existing password is. The only opportunity I have as an administrator on an account is the ability to update a user's password. So I can go in here and I can update this, but I'll never be able to see that employee's password. And that's really an additional security measure in our system. We do keep these all encrypted on a 36-bit encryption on the back end of our system, meaning that that information is safe and sound from everyone. Oftentimes the reason being for this is we're just, as humans, more or less, we're a creature of habit. So oftentimes we find that individual users like to use the same password and username as their bank login. So again, it's important for us to maintain these security measures in place and keep those in place, but it's also important for the end user to know that their information is protected for that matter. So as an administrator, we can update. We just can't necessarily tell them right from this portion of the system what their username is or their password. I should say just their password. The one thing we can do, though, is we can always send the passcodes to this user. And so as long as their email address is listed here, we've got an automated system where we can select send passcodes to this user, select OK, and it will alert us that that password was successfully sent to the end user to access. Additionally, from this location, we've got the ability to place our users or change their current group or department that they actually fall underneath. We can choose that from the list that's available here. I'm already set up in the general government account, though, so I don't need to change anything here. And the last area that we're going to specifically cover is user privilege or rights within the system. And this is actually where we can set users up as account administrators or group administrators within the account. We're going to talk about the various access that users have, from primary admin, group admin, down to a user. The best way to look at this is a primary administrator and a standard administrator on the account. They all have the exact same rights. They can run reports for all users and user groups within the system. They can make specific training assignments to all users within the system, but more or less, they have full control of all training that's being conducted on the account, all reports access, and any system settings that might be updated as it applies to this account. The only difference between the two is that the primary admin is identified as that primary contact on the account. So if there was an update that we wanted to send out, generally we try to send that to all group administrators as well, or even regular admins in the system. But really, if there is something that's specific to your account that we had to call and address with you, that primary admin is really the primary contact. The next section down is what we refer to as group or departmental access, or admin rights. And really what that means is they have the same exact rights as a primary admin or a standard admin, but very specific to their group or department which they serve under. So, for instance, from an HR administrative standpoint, or if I was a safety coordinator or a risk manager, I might be, from an administrative perspective, assigned specific access for a safety program or an HR program that I want all of my employees to take. But as an account admin, a full-fledged account administrator, you might decide that you want to grant your department heads or department supervisors what we refer to as department or group administrative rights. And that way you got the opportunity to delegate down authority to those department heads and give them the opportunities to choose what training might be most applicable for their departments. From a safety coordinator standpoint, generally that focus is on safety issues. So whether that's slips, trips, and falls, bloodborne pathogens, some of the more common, call it safety issues and occurrences that need to be addressed on a regular basis, that's their concern. From an HR perspective, your concern is harassment training and various other HR elements that you want to make available, but you might not always have the best idea of what the individual employees need as it pertains to their professional development within their own department. And that's really why we recommend setting up department administrators or group administrators within the system and giving them that opportunity as well to require or make specific course assignments to their staff, as no one knows better what their personnel or their staff needs aside from that department head themselves. So that's where we would choose that and set that up. Again, from the employee upload form, we're going to identify all this up front, where to put your users into, how to group them, and who's going to be administrators. But at any given point in time, say someone receives a promotion within the department, they're now a department head, you can update their access at any point through the system. Additionally, from this location, I can select what's called the access link. This is one of two locations that I can go to assign specific training access. So if I'm creating a new user, after I update that user's details section, an access box will appear and it will allow me to select courses for that one user from the available course topics within this system. This is one of two locations where we assign access, but it's the only location that would only allow you to assign specific access to a specific user. Additionally, you can always go in and check individual user results right here in the system. That's also broken down, kind of like we saw in the certificates area earlier. For current e-learning center progress, that means the current training that they're assigned, or all historical training data within the system for this user. So that covers the users and groups section. We're going to go ahead and roll over to the license manager. And what's important about this is we previously discussed how to add courses to a single user. In this area, we're going to talk about how we can utilize the system to make large group assignments for that matter. So under the license manager, this provides me a wealth of information as it pertains to training access that I've got available on my training account. It shows me the courses that I've got access to as an administrator to assign to my staff or to assign to my personnel. It also shows me the quantity, which is always going to be listed as unlimited. I can see who's been assigned that training access by clicking on that, the number or where that's assigned. And then lastly, I can see when this training is ultimately set to expire on this training account. So as I mentioned previously, there'll never be an opportunity where training expires and you don't have access to additional content. It is a scheduled automated update that when training courses expire, they are automatically reassigned training access. There's never going to be any downtime when your employees don't have access to the trainings that are currently available through this program. So the license manager not only allows us to see what's available, it also allows us to assign or remove training access in bulk for that matter. So once I select the Assign Remove Courses link at the top of the page, it's going to give me an option or a couple options. What would you like to do? Assign courses to users or groups of users, or remove training access from users or groups of users? We're just going to click on one of these to show you exactly what that looks like. I decide to assign courses to groups, and this also goes back to why it's important to group your employees and have them broken down into the various subsets that we've already identified. Is it allows us to easily make specific training assignments as it might be most applicable to that group or department of users. So as you can see here, I can choose either between all courses, or I can choose individual courses for that matter. And courses are identified as selected once you've actually selected those, and it will highlight that. And so I can kind of skip through here and select those training courses I want to assign. Additionally, I can select from the groups of users that I have below who I want to assign that to. So if I select general government, it's going to assign the training access I selected to all general government employees that I have set up underneath that group or department. And this is really most applicable. I mean, naturally, we don't always want to make, we're not going to make available law enforcement specific training content to our public works employees. The goal is not to confuse them. We want to give them access to really what they're required to take, and keep it at that. So again, it allows us to really become and take full control of training access and assignments throughout the training account itself. Additionally, there's notification settings in here. So if I went to assign courses to a group of users for that matter, let's just say I'm going to assign these 3 course topics to myself. We can send automated notification emails directly from the system. The moment you hit submit, it's going to ask you if you would like for these individuals to receive an email notification letting them know that they've been assigned new courses to access. And that's either a yes or no. It's always going to give you that option though. You can choose to alert them or you don't have to necessarily. Now, I've already been assigned access to these courses, and so it's going to tell me that they couldn't request or couldn't complete the assignment request. And it's telling me because I've already been assigned access to those specific courses. The system will let you know if I didn't have access to that training already, it would provide a status bar that tells me that the courses are being assigned there. The next section we're going to jump to, though, is going right into reporting, and this is really the bread and butter of the system. The reports access gives you full-scale access to all training data that's being conducted on this account. That's various reporting data, so I can see run a report for courses completed, courses not completed, course breakdown or user breakdown. If you have a question about what those reports can do for you, you simply hover your mouse over each question mark. That's going to tell you exactly what that report can accomplish for you. Naturally, there's not so many options in here that you're going to get lost either, so it allows you to really select what it is that you're looking for. The next section down, we're looking at, do you want to run that report that you chose for groups of users, meaning those departments? We can do that for individual or all users, or we can do that for specific course topics. So we can choose, I wanted to see who has or has not completed the required sexual harassment training. You can do that for the current month that you're in, the current year, or between specific date ranges by selecting that date from the calendar box that pops up. And lastly, the view as options. So again, you're going to notice those question mark icons here. It's going to tell you what that report's going to do for you or how it's going to provide you that information. Really, the first 2 are the most utilized. However, HTML view is going to put that information right there on the screen in front of you. So it's not going to download that, or it's not going to give you a file type to view that. Otherwise, we recommend utilizing CSV. What that's going to do is it's going to spit that report out in a very bare bones Excel format, allowing you to take that information and manipulate the data however you see fit, or use that to load into any other personnel management systems, say like PeopleSoft, if that's something you use within your entity. CSV is generally the most commonly used Excel format to import or export data as it pertains to employee training data for that matter. The next area we're going to take a look at quickly is over and looking at the settings icon here. On the setting page, there's really a couple things it allows us to do. First and foremost, we can always update our account contact information. That's very straightforward. What's our street address and the best contact number for that primary administrator. But the second piece to this specifically is the editing of the test settings. We provide a mandatory, or a default, I should say, 80% pass percentage requirement in our system. So when users are engaging with the training, at the end of every training course, there is going to be a short quiz, and we do refer to that as a quiz, not a test, but really it's a short format quiz, roughly anywhere between 10 to 20 questions at most. And that's really just depending on the length of the training course that you're accessing here. Because we have that default 80% pass requirement, users can actually take the exam or the course quiz as many times as it takes for them to pass. However, keep in mind, we do document all the way down to the second that the amount of time that a user spends in the training material for each course. And we also document the number of attempts that it takes them to pass that training exam. Additionally, if it's a situation where you're assigning, say, sexual harassment training to your employees, and I always use that as a reference because that's one of the most commonly used courses within our system. But if sexual harassment training is being applied and you want to ensure that your employees have a 100% understanding, this is the area that you can do this. And so it allows us to update the pass percentage for any quiz within our system as it applies to any one of these training courses. even with courses that have multiple quizzes throughout, it would require us, and you could update that pass percentage from 80% all the way up to 100% in 5% increments. So again, if you really just wanted to stick it to the staff and let them know that you mean business about that sexual harassment training, this is that area to do so. Applying that as a 100% pass requirement to ensure that they can go through and do that. Naturally, this is a great thing to have as well. You know, for instance, if you have an employee whom it takes 15 attempts to pass the sexual harassment training exam, that's usually a key identifier that you want to lock that employee away and keep them away from everyone else to avoid any claims or liability exposures that could come out of that. And while seriously, it's not a joking matter, documentation is one of the key aspects of our system, and we really like to highlight the fact that you have complete control of how your employees not only utilize the program, but also ensuring that if needed, they can have a 100% understanding of the training material that was provided there. Last couple of areas that we're just going to take a look at here is actually taking a look at the Get Certificate section. And underneath the Get Certificate section here, what this is, and this reverts back to what we were talking about previously, employees have access naturally to their progress and certificates where they can have access to their certificates of completions for the life of this program, but you as an administrator can actually download certificates in bulk. So it allows you to plug in a date range. You can do this for specific users. Additionally, the department listings or what department they fall underneath are listed here as well. So if you're only looking for those general government employees, you can identify that here for that matter, or again, doing that for all users within the account. You've also got specific date ranges, so if we just cover from last year to today's date for that matter, you'll select Get Certificates. Immediately that download box pops up for you there, and notice as soon as I hit this, those certificates are downloaded for me. I say this on a few different instances because the system itself is very responsive to requests. There's not a lot of load times, there's not a lot of wait times to accomplish tasks within the system, and it gives you that information quickly and efficiently. Additionally, this is going to work with any PDF viewer that you've already got set up on your system, so that might change, or the view of this might look a little bit different when I'm setting this up for that matter. But as we can see here, I've documented these training results in the system. This pulled those results for all users within this particular account, and I can view that training result, meaning I can extract those certificates of completions, or I can double-click that just to view that certificate of completion as well. Ultimately, again, folks, the biggest takeaway here is we're looking to provide these webinars as an opportunity to put this information in your hands. You know, we've placed a lot of phone calls. We've tried to email about this program and get the word out. But ultimately, we wanted to give you an opportunity to set up this time to come here and, you know, be prepared for the meeting and sit through this for that matter. So we certainly appreciate all of you joining us for the call today. You know, kind of next steps and action items for this is we'll be working with CIRMA to provide some additional communication surrounding this. This entire webinar has been recorded from start to finish. So at that point, you know, we'll be able to download this, and we'll be actually sending out a link where you can access this video or share this with any other training coordinators or department heads that might have interest in this program. You can send them this demonstration, the overview of the system. Another key takeaway here, though, is I've alluded to it a few times during this call, but our sole purpose truly is to assist you from start to finish in rolling out a program that meets your specific needs. So again, while CIRMA has selected a variety of courses that they want to make available and they deem applicable for your organization, it's your opportunity to review out of those selections of course topics what it is that's going to be most applicable for your specific needs. And really, as this program continues to mature, we want you guys to, you know, find new ways to utilize the system. Again, there's no right or wrong way to go about doing this. It's really a matter of meeting your specific training needs within your entity. It really helps streamline that training is being conducted entity-wide. We know and understand the challenges that are involved in always having to put forth or put on instructor-led sessions. You know, part of those challenges are getting the employees where they need to go to in a timely manner, or taking them off the clock to accomplish this. So again, having an online training platform not only makes that process a little bit more efficient in tracking and documenting user results and user progress, but it gives you more applicable course topics that you might not already have in your repertoire, for that matter, or you might not have in your back pocket to be able to deliver an instructor-led course on. So, we encourage you to review the course topics that are available here. You can always find that list. The most current list will always be on that CIRMA homepage or the portal page for this program. So you'll always have access to that. Additionally, though, we certainly encourage you to follow up with our account manager, Steve DeStacy, if you have any additional questions. I'm going to plug his information into this section here on the chat box here. So you can give us a call at any given point in time. We are available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you call our toll-free number and specifically request Steve, he'll be able to assist you. Otherwise, the voicemail, so to speak, or the voice prompt will allow you to select his name, and that call will go directly to him. Additionally, at any given point in time, my name is Tony Green. I'm also on that voice prompt, so if you got any additional questions, you are more than welcome to call and address those concerns with me as well. But again, just the biggest takeaway here is let us assist you if you've got additional questions or any concerns that might be holding you back from utilizing this free training service. We want to hear about that. We want to know how we can go about addressing those concerns with you to get this program underway. And that does conclude today's webinar. So again, thank you all for taking the time out today and joining us. We know that you guys have busy schedules, so we appreciate you taking that opportunity to learn more about this service. Of course, you can always contact CIRMA about all of the wide variety of member services that they provide through their programs and what's available to their members to utilize. But we certainly look forward to getting you set up if you're not using this program yet, and answering any additional questions you might have along the way. Thanks again, and have a great day, everybody.